Hello, YouTube friends. Today, I have someone very special on the channel.
Hey.
This is my dad. Aw. So let me brag about my dad for a minute and why he's on with us. So my dad is an entertainment lawyer by training. He also worked at major studios, Universal, Fox, Paramount, and he also was executive director of the Producers Guild of America for over 20 years. And you're also the author of the book, 10 Minutes to the Speech. Welcome to the channel.
Oh, great to be here. You see a similarity?
We look nothing alike.
She got lucky. She got very lucky.
No, he really is. I know we look nothing alike, but you'll see we're a little bit similar. We have similar ideas. So I want to bring you on the channel to specifically talk about what to do before your next big thing. So I know a lot of people who watch the channel are professionals. They're doing speeches, pitches, negotiations. They're doing a big meeting where they have to present for 2 minutes, for 5 minutes, for 20 minutes. What should they do before their next big thing, especially if they're feeling a little bit nervous that they're trying to prep?
Well, you got to remember, you want to be relaxed. You want to at least seem relaxed. And listen, I'm very familiar with the fact that, as the biggest three fears for most people in their lives is death, taxes, and public speaking. So I understand that. So how do you fight against that? Well, I developed a little kind of helpful tool, right? I call it smoothing.
Can you guess what it is? Okay, just try to guess. Okay, so by the way, everyone in my family makes fun of my dad for this, but it works. It really works. Okay, so smoothing. What do you think it is? It is?
Smile while breathing.
Smoothing. Smoothing. We're going to put an animation up for that.
It's not,
okay,
it's not brain science. It's just about simple relaxation techniques that you're doing for your body. Now, obviously, two very important parts. Most important part is your breathing. You are breathing. What's it do? It relaxes your esophagus. That relaxes your whole chest. It makes you get air to your brain where you're thinking,
we
right?
Need that. We need
you
that.
all need all that. But when you're doing this, you don't want to be like when you go upstairs.
Yeah.
No.
So that is the mistake that I think a lot of people make when they're trying to breathe, right? Is they're like, well, that's like extremely nerve-wracking. Like, what do you do after you run a mile? So you've made it so that it's not a nerve-wracking breathing, but a smiling breathing.
And it also teaches you to, by smiling, you are breathing in slowly and out. You can't just contain all that air because then you're going to come off as stuffed, literally. So you want to just take that.
Do it with us. Do it with us.
Yes,
Okay, ready?
right.
So we're going to. Now, what I like about this is it's not maniacal smiling. So it's not. Right, that feels crazy. No. But there is research to show that something called a savor smile. So a savor smile takes half a second or longer to appear on your face. So instead of, which is very fake, actually natural smiles are slow there. So a smooth is you take a deep breath and then you naturally breathe. So as if you're like, this is such good air that I'm breathing in. And this is what I do before all my speeches, before all my speaking events, is I try to breathe, but not just, but actually a little bit smooth breathing. The nice thing is you can also do this if you're in public. So it's kind of a covert tactic. So if you're already in the meeting or you're already walking to the office, you don't have to go hide in the bathroom. Like, you can just be like, hey, how are ya?
It's also really good in small situations, small venue situation. When you're just meeting with a group of people or a small group of people you want to converse with, what it does is if you get to start out, that gives you a brief second to clarify in your thoughts how you're going to open, what impression you first want to make.
Yeah.
While you're also relaxing your body, getting air to your brain.
So smooth, before, during, and after your first impression. Okay, second tip.
Second tip, and this is something you won't think about normally, but you really got to think about it. You're always thinking about, you're thinking about yourself, how you're going to prepare. Before that, though, who's your moderator or how are you being introduced to your meeting or to your pitch? What is the introduction? How are you going to be presented? Frankly, that opening, that initial burst is so important. It taints the audience's impression of you as to how you're depicted by someone else, your moderator. So you want to know what they say. You want to say, hey, Vanessa, how are you going to introduce me for tonight's talk?
Right, exactly. And the reason for that is because you're trying to prevent that very awkward moment that could ruin your first impression. Here's what happens on video calls and on meetings. I've seen this 1,000 times. Everyone's listening. And then someone goes, oh, okay, Vance, you're up. And Vance goes, I didn't realize I was, okay. Okay, all right, I got it. So your first impression's done, right?
And you also want to be forearmed. You should not be the
Forearmed.
person forearmed by not being the person who explains why I'm an expert. That comes off as conceited. You're
That's
not
true.
likable. It's better if someone else says it about you and what they actually say about you. Listen, I think it's a good thing when she says, my father. That to me is very special. And it's also, it puts everyone in the same group. We're all feeling the same because we like our fathers, hopefully. And
Also, I was
Hopefully.
I was also able to brag about you, which is great because then he doesn't have to brag about himself. So a couple practical things is your moderator, your host. This is not just if you're speaking at a venue. It's also like who's running the meeting, who's running the agenda. The worst thing that happens in a meeting of 5 people where you don't know who's running the agenda.
let's discuss that because the agenda is really important.
Yeah.
Knowing where you are. This is not like a public speaking. This is like a meeting
Yeah.
where you're doing a pitch. Who pitched before, who pitched after.
Yeah.
That's really important. What if they were pitching before you pitching your comedy? They're pitching about murder and World War II.
What kind of meetings are you in?
Well, pitch meetings could be anything.
Film meetings.
Film meetings, I'm thinking of entertainment. They're pitching
It's
ideas
like, I'm
for
going to
shows.
pitch about murder.
Right. Well, they do that. If you want to know the atmosphere in the room.
Hollywood.
Yeah, right.
Hollywood. So
Call me Mr. Hollywood.
Yes, or also it could be if your pitch is comedy and someone's talking about murder, in that really common everyday example that someone might have. Or it could be
No, let's do aquatics. If someone's pitching the next baking special or the new baking
and
recipe,
someone was gluten-free.
and someone was gluten free, I mean
Okay,
that's
fine.
good. You got to correct for that. You have to make
or
a joke about it.
more commonly, who wants to go first? Oh, that is the worst when you have someone who's running a meeting who wants to do their update first. Right, like then you have this. So anyway, so agenda, getting in control of one, who do you want to be after, and never go after the really good speaker, or go right before them, right? And then also making sure that there's a purpose, that you're not having that awkward interaction.
It's brings a very good example. I was asked to speak, and I was the last on the agenda. So number one, I followed a lot of really experienced people. Number two, the problem
You
was
can't look at yourself; you got to look
I
at the
know.
camera. Okay.
Thank you. Number two, the thing was that they were really, really good. And guess what? It was a 2-hour conference. They had 15 minutes left. So they cut me back because I was the last speaker. So you know what I did? I decided, make an impression. If nothing else, if I couldn't give all of my personal advice about business affairs, making deals, which is kind of boring, I told a story. I told a very personal negotiating story about how one can immediately change the perceptions, and in a negotiation, learn about what do they want. It's much more important than what you have to sell. What do they want? So I told a story.
Yeah.
But you probably know the story. I told
It's in
them.
Captivate. The story. It's in Captivate. This story. You're gonna have to find it. I'll give you a hint. It's about 2 kittens.
That's right. No,
So you gotta solve
thank
book.
you very
gotta
much.
solve
Right.
book.
That's
And this
very
book's great too. Okay, so know the agenda, know the host, try to take control of that, try to remove that awkwardness. Last tip for us.
Last tip is really important. What you have to do is you don't want to have stage fright. And again, everyone experiences it different times. If you're really experienced, you might get nervous. It might be an audience you're not familiar with or what. It's something that you have to know some tools of how to combat. I'm scared of those people. By the way, big audiences are very intimidating. Here's a couple. I'm giving you 3 different examples of how to cure it. Okay. The first is from someone very famous that my daughter and I both respect immensely. He's not alive anymore, but Dale Carnegie. You know what, Dale Carnegie, he was this great speaker, right? Famous, unbelievably famous. So what was his secret? Well, he went into a room and he imagined the entire audience owing him money. So he was going in there saying, okay, they want to know from me as to how I'm going to let them off the hook and not pay him back.
Yeah.
That's how he liked to be.
Trick.
But that's his impression. Because I must tell you, a totally different way of looking at it, and one I'm more comfortable with, because I don't want to look down on people.
Yeah.
So I thought that was like Winston Churchill.
Opposite.
So what do you think Winston Churchill, he did before? Many times if he had a really, really important speech, it was really important to make an impression, he thought of his audience completely undressed. True story.
So, this is interesting because you have to think about what makes you less nervous. And I've heard, oh, imagine your audience naked, but I never heard Dale Carnegie's. And that made me realize everyone needs something different.
Okay.
Right?
The third one.
So yeah, we're almost there. So you have to think about what would make you feel better. What mental trick can you play with yourself to help you feel better? That could be Dale Carnegie's, imagine that they owe you money, or it could be Winston Churchill, imagine they're naked. Third tip.
And as notice, I'm using hand signals to complement her speaking because I listen to her. So the third reason is something that I do for myself, that I work on, because I think, like my daughter does so well, you want to personalize a speech. You want it to seem relevant to them. Mm-hmm. So I actually pick someone out in the audience. And initially, I'm going up on stage.
Or on video, on Zoom. Like literally, you pick one person's block.
Exactly. Very good point. Pick that person to speak to them like they're your friend. Mm-hmm. And you're speaking to them. You got to just blend out the audience, speak to them. Now, here's the trick, though, about this. You got to be careful because you do want to move it around. You don't want to focus on that top right corner of your Zoom screen, right? Or in the audience, the left hand, in the front row. You don't want to, you got to be careful. You do need to move it around. So I always like to change it and go to the other side of the room, back of the room, front of the room. But looking at someone makes it more personal. And by the way, by doing that, you as a person are being a bit more effective communicator because it's personalized to this person because they're your friend.
So I would add to that, you want to speak to your nodders. So you know these people. These are really
not
warm, receptive people. No, not naughty people. Nodders, right? So Nodders, because those are the people who are receptive. So there's always that person in the audience or a person on your Zoom call or a person on the meeting where they're like, oh yeah, So when I'm on stage or I'm on a Zoom call or I'm in a meeting around a conference table, I'm looking for my nodder. When I find my nodder, that's who I'm speaking to. And then I look for another nodder. Oh, you nodded? Great, I'm speaking to you. So my eyes only bounce to nodders. And by the way, that also, I've noticed this creates a little bit of a loop where it encourages other people to nod more because they notice that you're looking at nodders. And so by the end, more and more people are nodding. So look at your nodders and deliver right to them. So I want you to save this video, watch for your next big thing. We're here, we're cheering you on. Cheer
we are, yay!
Woo! We're cheering you on, so just watch this. Hopefully we'll pump you up, give you some confidence. You can definitely connect with my dad on LinkedIn. He's Vance Van Petten if you want to connect with him. Definitely check out 10 Minutes to the Speech, which is an amazing little book. And the reason why it's little is because we want you to be able to very quickly digest it, which I love. Thanks for coming on the channel. High five.
Oh, my pleasure. She makes me look good.
Oh, well, you kind of matched too. We did this on purpose.
Yes.
Like it.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Are you living up to your full potential? Do you want more? I would love to help you. Get started with my free training and learn more about People School today. Visit scienceofpeople.com/pschool.
Hi.
You know, if you want to, why don't you stand over there and then come in and be like, hello, and then come over, right? So it'll just be me at first.